And one day during pre-production, in a typical review of a large batch of viz dev, the artist brought in this piece. When that shot came to life, we knew we were really onto something. Hello, everyone. I am Pam Marsden. I'm the head of production for Sony Pictures Animation, which we call SPA, or more ironically, SPA. I'm excited to be here at the Collision Conference for the first time to talk about our studio and the making of our latest animated feature, the Academy Award-winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We are comprised of directors and story artists and visual development artists and editors, as well as the creative and production executives who provide the necessary support and oversight. Our mutual objective is to get our filmmakers' vision up on the big screen at SPA. We are committed to making big, bold movies where the hand of the filmmaker is strongly felt. We achieve this primarily through a two-pronged approach. We create the story side by generating a series of animatics, which are essentially hand-drawn storyboards edited together with dialogue and effects and music to allow us to visualize the film as a whole in a very early stage. And the second prong, we approach the visual side by allowing filmmakers to work with production designers and visual development artists to explore the look of the film, including character design and environments and the overall aesthetic. So let's talk about Spider-Man, our most ambitious film, and some of the techniques that were used to create a new and very special experience for our audiences. And first of all, it was truly an incredible undertaking. And a team of over 800 artists and technicians pushed themselves every step along the way to expand the boundaries of what an animated film could look like. They were inspired by the story they were telling, and filmmakers took a leap of faith. When challenged, all areas of our studio innovated, and in the process, we developed a brand new visual language for animated storytelling. So our risk truly paid off. Miles was introduced to the comics in 2011, and he's been a fan favorite ever since. He's half African American and half Puerto Rican, and he's a boy. So he brings youth and diversity to the character that we've never seen before on the big screen. We were, of course, really excited to tell his story and to do it in a unique way. We needed to distinguish the Spider-Man from others, and we decided to use animation and develop a new visual language for our film. We were ready to break from traditional methods. In the case of the Spider-Man, we went back to the original inspiration, the original Spider-Man comic books. Several key impressions from comic books guide style choices. Paneling and in-frame text are signatures of the format, and then we could use that to associate the movie's visuals with the comics. Bold graphic design, vivid colors, strong dynamic character poses, dramatic camera angles, all of these are used to help make comic books engaging and active. And we decided to take those to also employ them and evoke a comic book style. Many artists on the early development team were avid comic book readers, and they loved the gritty feel and look of the printed comic book. So they celebrated the imperfections within the illustrations and saw them as signatures of a style rather than mistakes. And production designers committed to these ideas as a design aesthetic, and they brought the comic books to life. Spider-Man is set in a dense urban environment, and we needed to portray the kinetic energy of Miles's world. So the rendering process, however, requires a tremendous amount of rendering for multiple shots of layered animated backgrounds. So we wanted to simplify and control those backgrounds. So the talented men and women inside Sony Pictures Animation and our partners, Sony Pictures Imageworks, began to experiment. This is the very first object that was created for the film. And it does look like a simple traffic cone, but there were countless meetings about this object. The traffic cone actually was instrumental in setting the look of our movie. What excited us so much about it is the incorporation of graphic textures and paint strokes on a stylized and deconstructed model. That simple object led to one of our earliest animation tests created for the film. The focus of the test was to establish rules for what we called level of detail, which is the concept of simplifying details on objects that are farther away from the camera. Instead of blurring them out, which is a common technique, we simplified the style and design, which means that we could make design choices and have greater control over our final image. To illustrate this idea, the team developed an initial test, which started with this painting from our Viz Dev team. The team at Imageworks set up a camera, modeled the environment, added texture and some motion in the background, and this is what we got. So I'd like to draw your attention to the traffic crossing the street in the background of the shot. Specifically, I want you to look at the level of detail there. This is what you're looking at. The traffic moving in the background is actually abstract, appealing shapes that provide the look and feel of motion in a stylized way. This concept was adopted throughout the film. Here's another look at those animated shapes. It's another example of our early test to illustrate the concept of using level of detail. As you can see, the focus of the shot is on the motion of our character as he moves through the cities. The buildings and vehicles are all animated, and you'll notice that at one point in the shot there's a bus full of people that goes by in the background. If you look closely, you can see that the people in the bus are not made up of 3D geometry, but rather this still painting. And it's this technique of simplifying and stylizing elements in our shots, which make for a more efficient render, while also contributing to the overall unique look we were going for. And one day during pre-production, in a typical review of a large batch of Viz Dev, the artist brought in this piece. The filmmaking team really loved how the artist had included edge breakups and severe shadows. And then they also commented on the use of simplified silhouettes. And then they pressed play. When that shot came to life, we knew we were really onto something. To help illustrate what went into this, here's a breakdown of the exploration and experimentation that the animation team engaged in to protect the animation style, to perfect the style. In this example, animation is done on twos, meaning the character's pose changes every 2 frames or 12 times per second as opposed to the 24 frames. The camera move is also on twos, but the result is a camera move that's choppy and distracting. In the next example, we reverted to a more traditional CG camera on ones to solve for the choppy camera. As you can see, it's super choppy, and the result is worse. So what we ultimately did is try splining the animation, which means that we animated both the camera and animation on ones, but it looked like the traditional CG animation you see today. And that's a step in the wrong direction. So this was not going to lead to the fresh approach we wanted to take. So finally, we figured out how to accomplish the shot with the character animation on twos. We made up for the jitter caused by the second test by sliding the character over every other frame, so you can still feel the characters animated on twos, but you lose the choppy feel that wasn't working. And this was a huge breakthrough for us, and the first time this type of animation has been used in a feature-length CG film. Here, what's inspiring is the idea of taking something old or existing and making it new by way of smart and modern reinterpretation. So although these pieces emphasize the technical aspects of achieving the unique Spider-Verse look, they hopefully also demonstrate what's so powerful about the animation process. and that we iterate and iterate and iterate again until we achieve our goal. The process of constant iteration can be exhausting, but it's deeply rewarding. Animation is the medium where storytellers, if given the time and freedom, can be the most expressive. And there, I'd like to add one more thing. We could never make an animated feature in a style that is so fresh if we didn't have the iconic Spider-Man story to work with. The epic scale of the message that anyone can wear the Spider-Man mask and bring forth a hero from within was embraced by crews as well as general audiences. In the Spider-Verse, battles are scary, villains have guns, people die. This is unusual content, and the tone calls for a look that is more edgy and sophisticated. A traditional animated movie meant for family audiences would never support the break from traditional style you see in the Spider-Verse. Because of the familiar legendary story and the appeal to audiences of all ages, we had the perfect platform to expand the use of animation. So when people suggest that Spider-Man changed the face of animation, it's important to remember it was the epic hero story driving the creative team to take the leap of faith. And that's an in-depth look at our studio and the making of Spider-Verse. Our studio is a filmmaker-driven studio where it's our sincerest mission to support filmmakers and bring their creative visions to fruition. Thank you for being here.